So first of all, you look at the touchdowns for Caleb Williams. The number set at 23 and a half. Okay, we had a rookie quarterback last year that was pretty damn good. CJ Stroud, guess how many touchdowns he had? 23. So from the start, we are expecting Caleb Williams to throw more touchdown passes than CJ Stroud did last year. Then let's look at the win total. Okay, so it's set to 10 and a half. The Bears need to win 11 games. Okay, the Bengals, when Joe Burrow was the starting quarterback for the entire season, the Bengals went 10 and 7 in the regular season. They went to the Super Bowl, but still, the regular season, they went 10 and 7. He also had a few games under his belt going into the season because remember, his first year, he got hurt. The Bengals went 4 and 11, but he didn't play the entire season. So those are pretty lofty standards to live up to for Caleb Williams. So that's the bottom line for me. It just feels like the numbers are too high. And Caleb Williams can have a great season, and both of these can still go under the projected number at the book. So that's the bottom line for me. It just feels like these numbers across the board are a little bit too high.
Caleb Williams is walking into a very good situation. The Bears have set him up for success. That receiving core is going to be fantastic. We already know he has Cole Kmet as his little security blanket, if you will, to tie it in. But when you've got DJ Moore, you've got Keenan Allen, you have Rome Odunze, who I think is going to be great out of Washington, and you've got an offensive line that is much improved. 3 of those 5 starters back from last season. Everything is set up for him to have a fine rookie year. But all of that said, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because I'm big on Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be a star in the NFL. At the same time, when it comes to betting on a particular team, it's difficult for me to get behind this team saying, as long as their rookie quarterback, who hasn't played a down of football in the NFL, does well, then I think this can hit. That makes me really nervous. That's a real roll of the dice that I don't think you have to take. I think a lot of people are taking, which is why it feels like these numbers are a touch too high. So I would lean towards the under. When you're looking at 10.5 wins, you can get the under for plus 120. And you know how the offseason is, too. Joe O was talking about this when we were discussing his NFL previews that they've been having on BetQL Daily. And he was saying almost every single person who has previewed their particular NFL team, 15 out of 16 have chosen the over. Just by the law of percentages, that's not going to happen. So the offseason is a time when everyone's excited. Oh, Caleb Williams is going to come in. He's going to take the NFL by storm. And he might. But there's so many different factors that go into everything coming together. Am I going to go over 10.5 for the Bears? I can't do it. We know what we saw at USC. We've heard the sound bites. But for someone who is close to the fire there, if you will, in Chicago, how has he looked with the Bears in minicamp and OTAs?
Hey, you two. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Before I answer the Caleb question, Chuck, I was listening to you talk about being on the sidelines. They know better than to put me on the sidelines at the Bears games because my fandom will come out. So that's why I can't cover them that close. Yeah, don't put me on the sidelines. When it comes to Caleb Williams, he's someone who I'm extremely happy to see on the sidelines. And what he's been doing so far since he's walked in the building has been nothing short of amazing. I mean, the amount of pressure that comes on you when you're a first pick in the draft, when you won a Heisman, when, all the naysayers are out there and people are complaining a bunch of nail colors. And, it's really difficult to come into an organization, especially one that's consistently been losing over, the past 20 years and somehow still, right? It's like you have 2 bad relationships, right? You're in a relationship with Trubisky, you're in a relationship with Justin Fields, and somehow this guy comes along and still makes you believe in love, right? You would think you'd be like tainted, you'd be all over it, and he has everyone believing it, from the coaching staff to the fans to the players. You even have guys like Jalen Johnson, a big Justin Fields supporter, coming out and talking about how Caleb Williams is destined for this, how Caleb Williams is built for this. And it's just really cool. So I think more so than anything else, it's winning over the locker room, right? That to me is the most important, because it seemed like the most daunting task for a guy like Caleb Williams. But he passed with flying colors. And the beauty is this, guys. He hasn't had an actual snap yet. He hasn't thrown an actual pass. So we're all just butterflies, roses, and daisies over here in Chicago until that happens.
Come on, man. Everybody feels this way about their quarterback before the season starts. Remember when everybody's like, oh my God, Zach Wilson, he can throw the ball a mile. So let me spout out some of these numbers that are posted for the Bears this year, because I'm looking at these and it feels like extremely high expectations for Caleb Williams and the Bears this year. Win total for the Bears is 10.5, juice to the over at -145. The touchdown prop for Caleb Williams is 23.5. Let's remember, CJ Stroud threw 23 last year, so he would have gone under that number. Does it worry you that some of these numbers are too high?
You know what, Chelsea? I think the beauty of BetQL, like the reason why I love working with BetQL and have for the last 4 or 5 years, is because we understand, and that's why people come listen to us, right, on BetQL, is because we understand, like you mentioned in your first sentence, it's juice. We know in Chicago that a ton of people are going to be overhyped on Caleb Williams. So smart gamblers, right, not fans, but smart gamblers are going to look at those numbers and understand that Vegas has put those higher, that people have bet those up. So, I mean, when I look at those numbers, I don't look at them and say, oh, yeah, that's a perfect line, right? That's where the line should be. But I certainly look at it and say, this is what the expectations in Chicago are. But I would definitely fade the public, you know, which you should do more often than not. But in this particular situation, fading the public on Caleb Williams' stats, even the win total, I think it's hard, right? The Bears had 7 wins last year, a far cry from the 4 they had the year before that. And we know it is difficult to accumulate victories in the NFL. So to go from 7 to 11 is extremely difficult. So I would fade that, certainly. And then when it comes to touchdowns, 23, I don't know. They do have a lot of weapons. I think health is the big concern there for me when it comes to Caleb Williams. I think he's capable of putting up 23 more than C.J. Stroud. Absolutely. But I am concerned about his health because of the style of football he plays.
Gabe, when you look at the receiving core on this team, I mean, it's really, really strong. From DJ Moore to Keenan Allen, even tight end Cole Kmet, and they've got Roma Dunze coming in. So it feels like, be it the team as a whole or the receiving core, that if you've got a rookie quarterback who has been set up for success, it feels like the Bears have set up Caleb Williams to have a great season. Whether he does, we don't know, but the pieces are all there, aren't they?
Most certainly. I mean, you know, his rating in college, you know, over 169, you know, his completion percentage in college, over 65%. So you're talking about a guy that is extremely accurate, throwing it to 2 potential Hall of Famers, and a guy who is extremely coveted coming out of the draft in Roma Dunze. So I think they have set him up for that. I think the biggest task for Caleb Williams is going to be the ability to get the ball out as quicker than he's ever had in his entire career. And I think with guys like Rome and DJ Moore, and specifically DeAndre Swift, I've made a bold prediction on a lot of shows here in Chicago, Fox included, and I made the bold prediction that DeAndre Swift will be an all-pro. Why? Because I think Caleb Williams is going to have to lean on him with that quick pass. I think the Bears offense, Shane Waldron, they're going to try to curate an offense like they did in Seattle, where you're getting the ball out. There's a lot of value, but I think they're going to try to drill it in his head that you have a weapon in DeAndre Swift that you can utilize and dump it off to. And I think he's going to be a bigger weapon to Caleb Williams than most people are anticipating.
Okay, so we've tried to talk you off being overly positive for the Bears, but now I'm going to give you free reign. And now I'm looking at the odds to win the NFC North. So we're not looking, you know, at a juice number here. The Bears, you know, have the third longest odds here. They're plus 350 to win the NFC North. Of course, the Lions are good. Of course, the Packers looked good last season as well. But what is the scenario in which the Bears are competing for the, you know, division title?
Chuck, I think it would have to be a case where the Bears take advantage of a soft schedule in the beginning of the season, which is difficult, right? You have a team, a lot of new pieces, trying to get on board and play the same, going up against inferior competition who more often than not is going to be looking at the Bears like a target, right? You have Caleb Williams, where you're a target. You think you guys are good this year, you're a target. You are going to be a measuring stick for a lot of these teams at the beginning of the season. So I think if the Bears are to be competing for the NFC North, they have to fully take advantage of the first few games of the season. They kick it off against Tennessee. If they can get that victory, then they have to fly down, no easy task, fly down to Houston and go up against C.J. Stroud. And then after that, they have a couple winnable games. So, again, it's taking full advantage of that. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot discredit Jordan Love and what he did last year and not allow him to have free reign in that NFC North. I think, he is the best quarterback in the division, and until somebody else proves otherwise, it is going to be the Packers NFC North.